This is not a story about a 16-year-old girl who took her health for granted or felt invincible. This is a story about a girl who felt each day was a new opportunity to create and a step closer to her dreams. This is not a story about a girl who lacked direction, motivation, or ambition. This is a story about a girl who was number one in her class, number one on the varsity tennis team, and held 2 summer jobs. This is a story about a girl who began crying uncontrollably one spring. This is a story about a girl who got repeatedly hospitalized for moods she could not control. This is not a story about a girl who always had hope. This is a story about a girl who had endurance. This is not the story she expected to live, yet this is her story written in pen. Catching a cold is simpler. My story is different. The night sky held stars that twinkled at me with reassurance as we drove downtown. When we arrived, the air was stale. My eyes were dry. Black circles encompassed them from my sleepless night of disillusion and desperation. We were led around many corners until we arrived in a brilliant fluorescent lighted room. Then we waited as night waits for day. Seconds felt like minutes, minutes felt like hours. My mother's lap became a sanctuary for my tired eyes. After a brief interview, I had received a new bracelet. Layers of papers came next. Signatures were signed everywhere. Our weary legs walked miles in pursuit of an uninviting, stark blue room. We were to disperse. Then came a parting too sad to recall. So, at the last week of 9th grade, we had to write ourselves a letter for graduation day. And I don't know if any of you had to do that as well. Yeah. So I wrote this letter to myself, and I presumed I'd be giving the graduation speech. I wanted to be a motivational speaker. But 1 year later, I would be diagnosed with depression, and I would never get this letter. I actually just found it amongst some writing. But what's kind of interesting and ironic about it is it says, hopefully I will stay healthy. I'm grateful for my good health I've had so far in life. So once again, I'm just kind of pointing out that I'm not that typical invincible teenager that's just taking her health for granted. I was diagnosed with depression in the spring of my sophomore year in high school. I was put on a ton of antidepressants, and eventually it was found out that none of them were really working. And so my symptoms had kind of changed, and I was experiencing something called racing thoughts. And that is just when your mind goes so crazy fast that you can't stop it, and it becomes even physically painful. It has begun again without me. I'm already a step behind. I'm sinking fast, into someone I do not know, into someone I do not want to be. I do not belong here, not today, not tomorrow. I'm hiding my mind beneath the shelter of these clothes. I'm trying to stop the spinning that consumes my head. I'm staring again, not believing, not concealing. This is me. This is all that is left. This is all I will ever be, not me. It was decided when I was hospitalized in August for that day and a half that I would begin 11th grade commuting to downtown Minneapolis for day treatment. And day treatment was a lot of therapy and a little bit of school. And this is the first day of school picture. And I said to my mom, I said, Mom, you're not taking my picture. I am not going to school. I'm going to day treatment. She's like, oh, honey, it's still your first day of school. We're going to take your picture. I was like, oh, okay. So I smile, like always. They want to believe that girl's happy. She's not. So I began this day treatment, and I was there for 7 weeks. And I wanted to believe it was some sort of early college, going down to a hospital and riding an elevator and going and doing therapy. I don't know. I just tried to make some reason out of it. But anyways, in day treatment, I was diagnosed bipolar 2. So this is a picture I drew when I came back to school. I would drop out about a month and a half after I came back from day treatment, and I was in day treatment 7 weeks. So this puts me into about December of my junior year in high school. I would never be in school again. I am a high school dropout. So I'm getting a new prescription every 2 weeks at this point. I'm literally always taking new prescriptions to the doctor or to the pharmacy. So just a little bit about medication if you are bipolar. The really only two things we have to look at is antidepressants and mood stabilizers. So you have that severe depression like I was talking about, so you need an antidepressant to raise yourself out of that. And then you have crazy mood swings, which I mentioned as well, and you need a mood stabilizer for that. So for the average person, these two things work together, and they actually call them a cocktail. For me, they were not working together. And so I chose to have ECT. Anybody know what ECT is? Electroconvulsive therapy, also known as shock treatment. So I was 18 years old. I had been hospitalized 3 times. I was labeled treatment resistant, so I was a hopeless case. And there was no way else I could defend myself. So I thought ECT sounded like a great idea. As far as the depression went, nothing was lifting me out of it. So I decided to have ECT. Like I said, it was my choice. And I had it 14 times.
You see, it didn't last. I gave up on the 14th time. I can remember sensing an eerie calm, the consistent hum of the car motor that echoed the monotony of my head in the blinding rays of early morning September sun. My mind would feel uneasy as we drove downtown, but in those early morning hours, desperation took the place of fear. What I was about to experience had become normal. Before I fall asleep each night, I think of the promise of that needle. I still get concerned it might hurt, that the burning might return. I question all those journeys within the unforeseen journey. I think about surrendering all I was in a questionable chance to be free of the constant suffocation of life. When I remember those days, I think of the 2.5 years leading up to desperation. I think of the distraught 18-year-old girl that wanted nothing more than a sincere smile and a sprinkle of hope. I think of her consenting to do whatever was necessary to get her life back. I thought losing my memory would be a blessing and dilute the past into a less severe nightmare. But who are you when you can't remember?
I eventually would experience mania and a manic episode. And this is my journal from that time. And really, it says drastic changes, and that's really what mania is drastic changes. It's basically being cured overnight. It's feeling like you have superpowers, you're euphoric, and you have grandiose ideas. So you might do some excessive shopping, you might be really argumentative. I was really argumentative. Insomnia, you can't really sleep when you feel on top of the world. And I had pressured speech. And I thought that I could do the splits and sing the Star Spangled Banner on key. So feeling convicted of mania is awful. So the person being convicted of it is definitely in denial because you feel healthy, cured, and set free because of course you're healthy because you got to get healthy at some point, so who cares if it happens overnight? So you just feel completely free of this disease, and it's a very good feeling. And only those around you know that something's up. I don't know if there's any disease that wants so badly to be you, that wants so badly to be your identity and who you are. And because of this, when you walk around in public, you feel really obvious. Like when I walk around in public, I feel like, oh, everybody knows, I have bipolar disorder. Like you can see in the way I walk or the way I smile or things like that.
Yesterday was yesterday. I hope yesterday is not today. It is hard not to be suspicious. It is hard not to be fearful. It is hard to let the light back in. But I am still afraid yesterday will be today. And like yesterday, I will not see it coming. I will not be able to stop it. I do not want to give today a chance if yesterday is today. So before today begins, I will run to my pillow. I will hide beneath my sheets. I will sleep in fear that today might be yesterday.
So I was on the computer one day, and even in my sickest point, I would look, if I had the energy, I would look for a way out. And I had heard this place called the Menninger Clinic, and that was in Houston, Texas. And I flew down to Texas by myself and was away from my family for the first time. And I am 21 years old, I believe. And there's a kind of funny story. I went there with a taxi driver that drove lots of people there. He was like, this place really changes people's lives. And I was like, whatever, like anything's gonna change my life. but it ended up completely turning my life around. Then they said, oh, you need a step-down program, and I never even heard that word before. I was like, what's a step-down program? And that is just going to a program where you're given more freedom and more life skills. So I went to a place called Gould Farm in Monterey, Massachusetts. Farm life was very different from Houston. There were 40 people there like myself, and we were guests. And it was all about community and all about building relationships and the power of community when you are getting well with others around you and are living in an environment where there's a sense of belonging and sense of purpose. So the farm is all about community, and that's what enabled me to get even better.
I am finally living in the someday, breathing in the somewhere. There are no more concrete steps to climb, no more couches to sit on that provide nothing but empty answers, no more guesses written on small sheets of white paper. I feel like I'm living beyond my death. 5 years have passed. 10 years have passed. Awakening from the nightmare has finally transpired. I no longer fear the sunshine outside my window. Nighttime is no longer my only comfort. Days no longer move faster than what I can keep up with. I have found hope, and while it is still hard to hold on to, I can rest knowing it will never leave me again. Someday was something I could never imagine. Now I cannot fathom all the years spent somewhere else. I still do not understand how I hurt so much from an elusive source of pain. All I can dream of is that one day this will all be forgiven. The people, the situation, the surprises, the things I did not ask for, the things I got. Yes, I am far from removing the bandages, but today I feel more okay than yesterday and more okay than the day preceding that. Today, I wish for nothing more than this right now.
Mental illness is something that's chronic. Depression is something that's chronic. It's not something that goes away. And so it's something I still fight with. And even though I had somewhat magical transformations in the places I sought for rehabilitation out of state, it's still a daily thing. And I still have to push myself to do things with people and push myself to do things that I would rather not do and put myself in uncomfortable situations so that I can have better health and better well-being. And some people might not agree with this, but I really truly feel this way, that I don't believe that everything happens for a reason, but that you can make a reason for everything that happens. And for me, like, what is the positive that comes out of having a bipolar and depression diagnosis? What's the positive? Getting to help others. This is not a story about a girl who always had hope. This is a story about a girl who had endurance. This is not the story she expected to live, yet this is her story written in pen.